are recording, yes. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Gilded Age, an actual play about nascent heroes in a world entirely unprepared for them. We are in a slightly different format now. We are pre-recording an origin story, which we'll be doing for every single one of our hapless heroes, so that everyone can get to know them a little bit better. I am D, your Night Wanderer, and I am going to be the GM to facilitate and vex. Adam, tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Adam, better known as Soulby in most places on the internet, and today I will be playing the person who will become Remy Graves.
Excellent. So, for those of you who saw our first episode, this is taking place some weeks before the first episode picks up. It is a normal, relatively sunny day on the streets of our unnamed city. And we follow Remy as he walks down the street. What is Remy wearing? What is his gait like? What is he moving like?
He walks with a calculated swagger. He's never in a hurry to get places, but he's also not lollygagging. He dresses almost in a business professional way, but like with just enough slouch and slop to make it a little more hipstery than your typical like suit and tie. So probably like a blazer and a shirt that's loosely tucked and a gaudy belt and, you know, nice slacks and some flashy shoes or like.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Now, Remy has recently pulled off quite a stunt. He's gotten in possession of some amount of valuables, which still need to be pawned, but that is for a later time. But there is an issue. You're no fool. You know when you're being followed, and you are being followed. There is a hunter on your heels, seeking you out. And you get the impression that they're close. They might even be on the same street as you are at this moment.
I think Remy would attempt to flag down a cab and see if anyone use that as a cover to look around and see if anyone is coming towards him while he's waiting on the car to pull over.
Okay. Let's have an intellect roll for that.
Right.
Just a simple difficulty, so it's just going to be a target number of 3, a level 1 task. It is related to perception.
It's a 6.
That's a 6 already, you pass. So as you kind of like raise your hand, flag down a cab stops, and you're kind of, I assume you're opening the door as you're kind of looking around. You notice there's a decent amount of people on the street. It's not the highest amount of business that a street can have, but there's a decent amount of people going about their business. But you definitely spot a silhouette of someone. It's just from the corner of your eye, but you realize that if you look directly at them, they will know that they have been spotted by you. So you kind of keep your perception to this limited impression, which gives you just a determined silhouette that is definitely headed towards you rather than going about their business. There's just a difference in stride that is very obvious to you as an experienced runner away.
So do they seem... Are they far enough away that if he just hops in the cab that they wouldn't be able to get to him before he pulls away, or is it more
Yes.
of a like they're in a short sprint? Okay.
Yeah. If you get into the cab and like pull away, they will likely either have to follow by car or find a cab to follow you or find you at a later date.
Yeah, so I think he will hop into the cab, and as it's getting ready to pull away, he's going to take out his phone and get a photo of the person that was following.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Let's have that be a level 3 speed task. So that's a target number of 9.
I rolled a 9.
You rolled a 9. Excellent. Okay, you kind of like pull your phone out, take a snap. It's not quite the best of snaps, but you know, it's not as blurry as it could have been. You've gotten used to taking pictures on the go. You get into the cab, and the cab driver turns around, asks you where you want to go.
So part of Remy's hustle is he works with a few different charity organizations in the city, and I think if he's aware that someone is after him and might be upset about some of his activities, he wants to give. They don't know where the money comes from, so he doesn't want to necessarily give them a heads up, but he's gonna want to check in on them and make sure they're not being bothered. So
Mm-hmm.
he's probably going to direct the cab driver to take him to it's a children's charity somewhere in downtown that
Mm-hmm.
works with children's hospital surgery, that kind of stuff.
Let me just make a note of that. Alrighty. So they drive off, and it's a bit of a drive. You've selected a target that's a ways away so that they can't just run and get to where you're headed.
Yeah.
And after some time, there's a couple of moments where you get kind of stuck. I mean, not stuck, but you wait a little while in traffic, and that raises up the anxiety a little bit as you you can't spot the person anywhere around, but it's a lot going on, so it's kind of also hard to identify them. Um, and at some point, you arrive at the charity, at the organization that you were looking at, and this is just kind of a it's just a small office where they have the kind of like their base of operations, where they do all of the administrative stuff, which is where you mostly have stuff to do unless you're actually making an appearance at fundraisers and stuff like that. Yeah, let's name this charity. What is it going to be called?
Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts. Wonderful. Love that. Yeah, so there is just a sign. It's not really flashy or anything. It's just a sign that says Kingdom Hearts that's above the door that they put in at some point in time, because just having a piece of paper slapped onto the door itself was not enough for people to find them, and they usually had to like be called and go get the people and everything, and it was just a bother. So yeah, you arrive at Kingdom Hearts. You do you enter?
He's gonna make a lap around the block first, just
Mm-hmm.
to.
There.
He would actually have the cab driver park at a different
Okay.
business, maybe across the street or
Yeah.
around the corner, so that it seemed like he was going somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine.
Um, yeah, and then we'll make a lap around the block to see if anyone seems to still be following him before he goes inside. But then he'll eventually go inside.
Okay, so you kind of like start going, making a lap around the block. You take off, you take a side street and everything, and then there's like, because the buildings are kind of in this street, all of the big major stuff is front facing in the buildings, and so the side alleys are really just little alleys, usually only one-way streets for cars to go, that are just kind of, usually they lead to apartment buildings and stuff like that. It's kind of very small and narrow. So you kind of like take a detour into one of those. And as you do, you notice for a moment it looks like snow falling. And you look up, and the sky is absolutely clear. And then you realize that this snow is kind of behaving weirdly. It's these specks are kind of like they're floating to and fro, like left and right around. They're kind of falling around chaotically, as you would expect from light snow that isn't just like straight downward, but easily carried by the wind. But they seem to be glowing. There's a light to them. And for a moment you're reminded of maybe fireflies or something like that, as these kind of like specks are floating around.
Arrange for this time of year. But the sky is perfectly clear.
The sky is perfectly clear. It's a sunny day.
What a minute. Fire. Um, I think he will just instinctively reach a hand up and like try to catch
Mm-hmm.
a couple of the snowflakes just
Yeah.
to examine them.
So you reach out, and a couple of these things like fall down to your hand, and as they touch your, are you wearing gloves or is it bearskin?
Yeah, it'd be bearskin.
Okay. As they touch your bearskin, it kind of like, contrary to what you would expect from snow, um, which kind of like goes a little bit cold and a little bit wet as it instantly melts on warm skin. This actually feels warm. It's almost like not too hot ember has fallen on your skin, and it's just like there's like this small blip of warmth that spreads across your hand for a moment as a couple of these flakes kind of like catch your hand.
Something's on fire. So has he noticed anyone observing him or following him in his lap?
Um, Make me no, you don't need to. You're good at this. You don't need to make a roll. No, nobody has been following you. You do notice that some people are absolutely ignoring this event, and some people are
Mhm.
reacting to it and looking at it. There's a much smaller number of people who are actually looking at these things and reacting to them. And in fact, some of the people who are not are kind of like reacting in a very irritated way when they have to kind of move around or even accidentally bump into those who have stopped to kind of look at this event. Just you see this by this time you've kind of like finished your lap and you're close to the entrance to Kingdom Hearts again as you notice all of this happening.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think given everything else, he's thankful for the distraction, and just heads on inside,
Mm-hmm.
curious, but not particularly interested in weather phenomenon.
Yeah, fair. Um, you enter, and it's just kind of like it's a very small office space. It has a couple of tables to the left and to the right, which are kind of like for having like when they have appointments or anything with various parties. And then there's a relatively large kind of like long reception desk behind which is kind of like the brunt of the operation, which is all of the filing and the computers and all of that stuff. And today it's let's see, it's gonna be Jenny, who is the kind of like the front desk receptionist. You know her. You've had some contact with her in several times when you were making deposits or organizing stuff with them, and she sees you and she smiles and Mr. Graves, welcome. We honestly we weren't expecting you so soon again.
Yeah, well, point of order. The name that they would know him by in his
Oh,
actual
sorry,
name. No, yeah, it's Rembrandt Stone.
Rembrandt Stone. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Remy Graves is a name that he will take on eventually when he needs to disappear.
I apologize for that misstep. So she looks at you
Oh,
and
you're fine.
says, Mr. Stone, welcome. We weren't expecting you this soon.
Yeah, no, it's business is good. There's we got a new charitable deposit from some uh, do-good organizations in town, and just wanted to drop it off and see how things were going for you guys. He'll pull out just some of his own money that he's making an excuse to be here, essentially. So
Mm-hmm.
he'll give her a couple $100
Mm-hmm.
and tell her it's just mark that down for Goodfellas Inc.
Right. Goodfellas Inc. It is. We will just need you to do the usual paperwork. You know the form already, and she kind of like pushes the item across the reception desk, and you look down and you see this long bladed, jagged dagger with a golden hilt and encrusted with precious stones.
Have we changed policies since the last time I was here? I don't think this is standard procedure.
And you look up at her and you see it is her face. It is Jenny, but she is dressed in some weird kind of um, the best you could describe it as is this kind of almost ancient regalia, this like golden decoration stuff with a crown, or not even a crown, but more like a headdress of some sort. And she looks at you and she says, Hast carta de mendes, hat comen falates, cort harem falas.
Come again? Are you feeling all right?
What do you mean, sir? Just the usual paperwork, she says, as you're looking at the usual form that you need to fill out for any donations.
Oh, apologies. I think I was somewhere else for a minute. It's been weather's kind of weird outside.
Oh, is it? It looked like it was snowing. I don't remember snow being
Yeah,
on the forecast.
yeah, it was kind of completely clear, but yeah, snow flurries. I'll take care of the paper.
Ah, yes, thank you. You fill out the paperwork, sign it, pass it over, and she says, "Well, thank you for your donation, and have a nice day."
Yeah, no, absolutely. Has anybody you weren't expecting been by? Have you seen anything weird, strange? Has anybody been bothering you guys? Everything going okay?
Um, no, no one has. No, my business has been as usual. We are just it's slightly chaotic at the moment as we are preparing for the annual sacrifice of the innocents to honor the gods, but it
Come
is
on.
just business as usual.
Say what now? The annual what? Who?
The sacrifice of the innocents.
Is that a new tradition?
She laughs and says, "Why, no, it is as old as our great nation."
Right. What was in those snowflakes? I think I must be high. Um, who exactly are these innocents you intend to sacrifice?
Just the usual.
Okay, well, I'm glad nobody's been up to no good around and has no one's bothered you. I have some business to attend to on the other side of town, so I'm gonna uh, head on out, and you have yourself a lovely day.
Have a blessed day, sir.
And then he's gonna confused and hurriedly leave because something weird is going on,
Yep,
and he honestly thinks he might be having a stroke or a psychotic break.
fair. You open the door and step out onto a ledge of a cliff, and before you is a deep and wide pit with something writhing in the bottom of the pit. You can't really tell, but there's something moving down there.
Ooh,
There is the sky is there are still no clouds in the sky, but it is blood red, and a sun is shining down in this deep maroon color, which is tinging everything around, um, in this kind of rusty, bloody kind of red. And you are surrounded by more of these people who seem to be similarly dressed in these headdresses and golden regalia and everything, and they all have these vicious looking daggers in their hands. And you see that there is a long, winding road that you somehow remember taking at some point up this mountain, the this sacred mountain of the gods of your people. Which, again, you were not up to this point even aware that you had a people that might have gods. and you see across the pit from you on the other side, which is again, it's a good like it's probably a good 100 feet away. You see this elderly man who is dressed in white robes and holding this gnarled kind of rod of Asclepius looking staff with like a snake's head. Oh, sorry, not rod of Asclepius, caduceus looking staff with this snake kind of like wound up along it. And for a moment, you kind of like look at it and you see that this snake is actually not a part of the staff, as in a part of the carving of the staff, but it is actually a live snake that is moving around it. And he kind of like points at you and says more of something. He chants something, and the wind only carries a couple of syllables of this strange language that you previously heard Jenny talking, like this hot, hot, that, are just kind of like a couple of syllables that you hear. And all of a sudden you realize that there is a glowing edge to your vision, and you kind of like turn around and you realize that it's almost like you're looking at a rift in reality. There is this glowing light that sharply defines a jagged kind of lightning bolt looking like opening in thin air, and whatever is inside of this shape of this jagged shape is what you see to be this strange ritual on top of a mountain with this pit and everything that is beyond that just looks like the normal world, just still in front of the Kingdom Hearts office.
What in the hell? I I gotta stop eating after midnight. I I mean, I always knew I might end up in a bad place, but I didn't think it was gonna make an appearance this soon. Uh, I think he's gonna continue to watch,
Mm-hmm.
just
Yep.
dumbstruck more than anything else.
Yep. You watch, and next to you, you see this kind of like procession, which is kind of weird because they appear in front of you as they walk, but you realize that the only logical way for them to appear there is if they walked past you. But because where you are standing is your normal reality, you don't see them. You just see them as they appear, kind of like in front of your view. As they come up and go to the ledge and go onto this kind of like shoddy makeshift wooden platform that's just a little bit across away from the cliff's edge, and they kind of walk onto it and they spread their arms out and they kind of get struck by lightning apparently and fall down into the pit. And this happens with every person who comes by, this lightning strike. And for a couple of more people, you see this happening, and then all of a sudden there's this strange feeling of disconnectedness, of this location, as you are there and you are here and you are in other places at the same time. All of a sudden your vision starts to blur and you see kind of like these glimpses of these glimpses of scenes. There's this ritual scene, then you see a car chase. All of a sudden you see the city completely leveled and in ruins around you. You see no city at all, just a field of grass, and then it all kind of seems to almost collapse, and this jagged tear in reality just closes. It almost looks like it grows together like wound that would usually leave a scar, but this just like grows together and fuses until it just becomes a thin line of light and then fades out. And you are back on the streets of the city. But as you look kind of like across the street and everything, you see that across the street from you there was a lawyer's office, and which you're aware of because you have often had to kind of like have an intercommunication between Kingdom Hearts and the lawyer's office for the larger sums and everything. And you see that there is now a coffee chain, like a franchise location of a pretty large coffee chain, which has a slightly different name than you are used to. So, for instance, if it were a Starbucks, it would instead be saying Spacebucks.
Hmm. I officially lost my damn mind. Get it together, Rembrandt. But the Kingdom Hearts still looks normal. There's just across the
Um,
street is
you
now different.
you turn around and Kingdom Hearts still looks normal. As you look inside, however, you see through the door that Jenny is no longer there. There is a young man whom you have never seen in your life in there, working the reception desk.
Yeah, I think he'll step back inside and approach the gentleman at the desk.
He looks up at you and says, "Ah, Mr. Stone, your visits are getting ever shorter."
Yeah, I was just I had forgot to ask about Jenny's grandmother. I know she'd been having some health issues. Is she still here?
Who, sir?
Jenny, young, works front desk, been here a couple of years.
Uh, I don't know anyone by that name, sir. And I've been here since we've opened. Well, since we've opened this office.
Sure.
Maybe you're confusing this location with a different one?
Yeah, must be, obviously. It's been a long day. Uh, thanks. I'll see myself out.
Sure thing, sir. I mean, if you need, you feel free to sit down, have a rest.
I was appreciated. I got other places to be.
All right, Mr. Stone. Well, have a good day.
You as well. And he will head back outside.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I think he wants to go to ground, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
because he started the day being followed, and now he's losing his mind. So I think he's not going to go home, but he has an office um, a reasonable distance from here, not like across town or anything.
Mm-hmm.
He has a front organization, Stone Construction, that doesn't actually do any construction work. It doesn't really exist, but he has an office. Um, and so he will go there to just sort of get indoors and try to get himself together.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Yeah. You head there and you get to the building and you kind of like start going. You enter the building and start going up, and it's a it's a 5-story building, and your office was on the 3rd floor. And you remember there being an elevator, but as you kind of like walked in and took the stairs, actually, would you automatically go towards the elevator or would you prefer the stairs?
I think he would try to use the elevator.
Okay, so you kind of like go in and you look around, and for a moment you kind of again get this feeling of disorientation as you realize you can't see the elevator anywhere. Kind of the entire like area, this front area of the building is just dominated but by this stairwell that goes up.
Did we have a renovation and I forgot about it? Keeps getting weirder. I guess I'm taking the stairs.
Mm-hmm. You take the stairs, and let's have a difficulty 1, so target number 3, intellect roll.
That's a natural 20.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you kind of start going up the stairs, and you almost pass it, but you know this. You've yourself created this kind of like front organization, and you've made all of the stuff that you needed to do for it to seem legit. So you recognize the sign on the door immediately, and you stop dead in your tracks because your office is now on the 1st floor. That is the door. That is the sign that you put on the door. That is it says Stone Construction.
Who moved me? This is a downgrade. I pay for a view. Um, he will hurry inside,
Hmm.
just
Yep.
to get away from everything.
Yep. You hurry inside, you close the door behind you, and the inside of your office is exactly the same as you remember it. Everything is there exactly as you um, had organized it.
He's gonna make for the nice scotch that he has in a decanter
Hmm.
behind the desk,
Yep.
and give himself a nice 3-finger pull.
Yep.
It is, I don't know if this is gonna help or make it worse, but what is going on today? Might have to check myself into a clinic.
You have a swig of the scotch, and as you're kind of like pondering everything, you kind of start feeling slightly dizzy, and you realize for a moment you think that's strange. Usually, this is a perfectly normal amount of alcohol for you. You don't get um, drunk that easily. But this time it seems to be hitting, and for a moment you kind of like everything starts kind of moving around in your vision, and you feel almost like you've got a little bit of a fever going on, and then as you do, you kind of like your legs give out from under you, and you collapse down onto the floor,
Ooh.
and you kind of drift off very quickly into unconsciousness. Not necessarily because you've hit your head. You've been in a few scraps. You know how to fall without causing major damage, unless there's serious force behind it. But for some reason, this like whole thing, maybe this event, maybe this episode, whatever is going on, you are losing consciousness rapidly. Is there anything you want to do as your last kind of action before you lose consciousness?
Um, Reserves the scotch. He's gonna try and
Yep.
land with the glass upright and
Yep.
sit it down.
That is fine. You set the glass down. That is no roll required. You're steady enough for that, and you kind of like fade off, and you have a fevered dream. It's kind of like one of those um, delirious dreams where things keep happening, and you keep kind of being in between asleep and awake. So you are kind of halfway conscious of all of these images and dreams happening, and you don't want them to be happening, but you can't rip yourself out of it. You're just conscious enough to be aware of it being an unpleasant experience, but incapable of ripping yourself out of it. As you feel kind of like this heat spread over your body, you feel the an incredible pain surge down from your waist onwards towards your legs, as your kind of legs almost seem like they're almost like you'd been running marathons and marathons without any rest in between. They feel like they are just these agonized, cramped up muscles that are incapable of moving. And you kind of like you start looking at the world in a different way, and all of a sudden everything just gets these strange colors and tinges and everything, and you become more aware of scents and sounds, and just there's this kind of constant ringing, almost like a tinnitus, going on in your ear as you kind of go through this very long and very complex series of very unpleasant experiences in your kind of fevered state. And after some time, it all goes to black as you kind of finally blessedly fall fully unconscious, incapable of seeing whatever it is that your brain was conjuring up before you. And after some time, you open your eyes to a slightly blurred vision, which slowly becomes sharper and sharper. And all of a sudden, it looks the office is still the same. It looks identical to what it looked like when you kind of fell to the ground. It's the same view, but everything is just a slight bit sharper, and there's like these strange hues to things. You still recognize all of the colors the same as you always had, but there's just like almost like a faint aura or a hue giving off from the things. You feel very kind of sore, almost like you'd been working out for hours on end. Um, yeah.
Hey, theory, remind me to have this scotch tested for poison. Um, that actually activated my phone. My apologies. Um, what is that all a dream? God, what am I on the floor? He will attempt to stand up.
You go to stand up, and something's wrong. You don't feel your legs. You feel a response, and you feel movement, and you almost feel like something ripples down your legs, like a wave of muscle spasms, but you don't feel your legs, and you don't move up. You just kind of almost jerk a little bit to the side.
You will look down to see what's going on.
You look down, and you see that from your waist down, there is this impossibly large and impossibly long snake's body.
Oh, okay. Still
And
not awake.
as soon as you kind of like react with whoa, okay, and you kind of like do this knee-jerk reaction of kind of pulling back from it, you see the entire length of this body kind of like ripple in response.
Need to wake up. You obviously drank way too much. Come on.
The snake's tail is still there.
Oh. No. He's still got arms, I guess. He will attempt to upright himself.
Now, I need you to make me this is a listening related intellect roll, and let's make it a difficulty 3, so target number is 9.
That is a 5.
That is a 5. Okay. So you kind of like for a moment you kind of like talk to yourself. You say, what is going on? Please wake up and everything. And there's just like the sound of sirens outside, but it's not an unusual sound of sirens. It's just like your usual city background of, someone is shooting or someone is dying or someone is burning. So there's sirens.
Sure.
And you kind of like try to right yourself. And let's have a speed task, a difficulty 3. So again, target number 9.
That is a 16.
16, excellent. So it kind of like you start moving around and you realize that this snake-like body is definitely now an extension, and as you kind of like try to move around and right yourself up, it ripples in response, but it doesn't do what you want it to, and it takes a little while, but eventually you kind of like figure it out. So it's almost like a feeling of when a limb falls asleep, and then as it's waking up and as it's no longer numb, you kind of like have that point of it hurts a little bit in a strange way. You get that pins and needles feeling, and it almost feels strange and like it's someone else's, but eventually you kind of like manage to get to a point where you kind of like coil around and manage to kind of like create almost a little mound atop of which the top half of your body rests.
That's new. You need a nicer chair. Did any of this stuff happen today? What? He's gonna fish out his phone wherever he laid it, and check to see if he still has that photo that he took earlier of the person that was
Yep.
following him.
So you first of, as you're kind of like looking for your phone, you realize that you put your phone into the pocket of your pants, but you're not really wearing pants at the moment, so it takes a little while until you realize that beneath your body is a whole bunch of ripped up rags that used to be the pants that Rembrandt was wearing. And among them, you do find your phone, but you realize that it is the screen is cracked.
Just had those tailored too. If you can tailor pants for whatever this is. Indecent exposure if you don't have legs. Well, don't know if any of that happened this morning. Am I gonna go outside this? I don't. He's gonna try and make his way to the bathroom so that he can
Yep.
splash some water on his face, get a look in the mirror.
Yep. It is awkward and uncomfortable, and it takes you a number of tries to kind of like get the straight ahead movement right, because you kind of like keep undulating and kind of like shifting off to the left and to the right, but eventually you hit the bathroom door and manage to get into the bathroom. And as you're doing this, you kind of like are slowly realizing you're starting to get a feel for these muscles. You're starting to get a feel for how they work, and you can now slowly get to a point where you can kind of compress and relax them in such a way as to kind of provide a solid base for yourself to extend to whatever height.
Yeah, he'll just take some water and sort of wash his face and rinse his mouth out.
Yep. You wash your face, you rinse your mouth out, and you look at the mirror, I assume.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, for a moment, you look, and for a moment, you almost kind of get a little bit dizzy and a little bit fascinated as you look into your eyes, and they just kind of, there's some sort of light reflection going on that almost kind of confuses it. It almost seems like it shuts down thought processes in your brain for a moment, but then you kind of like quickly get used to it, and you're able to snap out of it, and you know you take in the rest of the details. And again, the eyes have definitely kind of changed. They have like this serpentine quality to them, and you have a kind of your ears seem to be slightly pointier, and there's these scales that cover not only the snake body, but there's also a little bit of the scales running up your neck and across your hands and arms. And as you're kind of like taking all of this in, you at some point kind of open up your mouth and everything, and you see also that your tongue is forked, and you realize now that what you had previously kind of not quite recognized, but there was something off, is that your voice, like the way you form words, has gone weird and wonky, and you're going to have to work at getting back to your usual perfect enunciation and diction, because this is a much different organ of speech than you are used to.
Definitely gonna take some getting used to. Whoa. So if I walk outside, I'm gonna attract attention. On the bright side, I don't think whoever was following me is looking for this. Yeah. He's gonna take the scotch decanter and dump it all over the desk, the carpet, the rug. He's gonna start splashing it around. Anything else flammable he has, he's about to torch his office.
Gotcha.
And good at the time any disappear, I suppose. Gotta make sure anybody in here. So on his way out, as the fire is starting to build, he's gonna pull the fire alarm for the building so that everybody gets out.
Make me an intellect roll. This is related to perception, and we'll make it a difficulty 4, so you need a 12 or higher.
18.
18, perfect. as you're kind of like going around splashing all of the flammables that you can find and kind of like setting all of this up, you realize that you find two no, actually I think it's four teeth on the ground. And you kind of like look at them and you realize that these used to be the canines that you had. Your new teeth are slightly longer and pointier and sharper.
That's why my lip was split when I woke up. You're gonna have a real tempering effect on my voice.
Now, the good thing
Right,
about this is that you now have DNA to leave at the scene.
dental record. Yeah, so he will put those on the desk and then make his way out.
Yep. You light.
He's going to grab. Presumably, he has I don't know, a trench coat or some sort of a coat
Yeah.
for rainy days. He's going to try and cover up as best he can, even though it's a half-assed
That's fair.
attempt to.
If you want to, and of course its usefulness would be reduced by the new anatomy, but if you want to, I'm perfectly I find it perfectly reasonable to assume that Remy had some sort of quick getaway bag packed for emergencies.
Yeah, always probably some cash,
Yeah.
fake IDs.
Yeah. So you grab that, you grab a trench coat, you light the fire and you kind of like start slithering your way out, and you are met with something that you had never in your life considered an obstacle. Stairs.
Oh. Why is there not an elevator? Building's on fire. We gotta go. Guess we're figuring this out on the fly. Goes nothing. He will attempt to figure out how to work stairs in this new setup.
Yep. It takes a while, and it almost kind of gets a little close. You kind of already start to feel the heat on your back as the office has now caught fully flames. But eventually, you kind of like figure it out how to do, and you kind of it's definitely not as graceful as you would have preferred it to be, possibly. As you kind of like end up having to stick very low to the ground to kind of like move downwards without risking falling over or kind of like trapping yourself in some strange way. But you eventually manage to get down, and you manage to pull the fire alarm on the little rest between the floors. And people start piling out into the building, but by this time you have kind of figured it out, and you kind of get out of the building and just take another detour into one of the darker, less visited alleys.
Yep, and he's gonna start flipping through his bag, looking for new identification. There's a few different ones. One of them is none of them are gonna look like him, like he does now, but there's one that has darker hair than the others, and it's closer to his appearance and everything else. So he's gonna toss the ones that don't match, and he's gonna keep the one that is Remy Graves.
Alrighty. And we are now going to move into a sort of a montage series of little scenes, of little vignettes, as first we see Remy Graves now entering a safe house that he has and dealing for a while with all of these changes, trying to come to terms with it. We're going to snap to a point where you have a reserve form. Your old phone is it's not destroyed, it's not dead, it's just the screen is unusable. So if at some point you find a guy to repair it, you can get all of that taken care of. But at this point, it's kind of a moot thing. And
Sure.
you kind of like start researching, and relatively quickly you figure out that there's all of a sudden a whole lot of sites and forums and message boards which are talking about this strange event. And it seems that a bunch of people have gone through similar things, though not many seem to have gone through as radical changes as you have.
One's a lucky one. Gotta be somebody that knows something. Why isn't it all over the news like 24/7? I don't. How does he find, given the state of the world now, um, is it very difficult for him to be in public still, or are people less full on panic at the snake man sliding
In
around?
in the first days of this event, there is definitely some amount of panic whenever some monstrous appearance happens to be seen on the streets. Doesn't happen often, but there seem to have been a couple of people affected in this way, and to have been altered in appearance drastically enough to scare people. But as weeks pass, again, it's not. Nobody gets used to it. Nobody gets used to it that quickly. But people stop panicking unless there is more real cause to panic than just appearances. So if they see a monstrous individual being more agitated, they would start panicking. But if they see a monstrous individual just trying to keep to themselves, they would not panic as much as time passes. And as time passes, I think Remy also gets a couple of close calls as he meets up with people who definitely are not willing to forgive him his appearances. And in these moments, he kind of, I assume he would fall back to kind of his natural talents of talking his way out of things, of trying to charm people. And that is when he realizes that he now has a much stronger effect on people as long as he's keeping eye contact with them or as long as he's talking to them. He can inspire either this kind of stupefied, confused state, much similar to the way he felt when he first saw himself in the mirror, or he can also cause them to be terrified. And at one point, when he tries to use this on purpose on a person, that person turns to stone.
Poke him like,
Just normal stone, a statue. An incredibly lifelike statue, but a statue.
that's new. I just kill a man. You still hear me? Are you in there? I don't suppose you'd be able to tell me.
You don't get a response.
Listen, I normally try and find a way to help you out of this mess, but given that you seem rather intent on making me have a very bad day, I think we'll just part ways and good luck with this eczema or whatever. I see you.
And Remy goes on his way. And we go to another vignette where what would be a contact that Remy might, or would there even be a contact from his old life that Remy might try to get in touch with?
Probably there would be someone from his childhood that he kept not frequent contact with, but
Mm-hmm.
occasional contact. They grew up in a fairly poor neighborhood, and it was kind of a rough area. Sort of the reason that he does a lot of the things that he does now is trades that he picked up
Mm-hmm.
growing up there, and then wanting to try and help in some way. His childhood friend didn't necessarily take as noble a path.
Mm-hmm.
Is probably some street level criminal, not violent, but pickpocket, purse snatcher, like not a great person.
Hmm.
So he doesn't keep in contact with him frequently, but checks in on him every once in a while and tries to make sure that he's got food and he's, getting by and he's not doing anything incredibly stupid.
Yep.
Um, so I think eventually after he came to terms with whatever his new situation was, he would probably go back to visit um, this person. Um, Maybe even at first just from a distance, just to get eyes on them and see, how they're doing with everything, and then
Mm.
find an appropriate point to approach, where he thinks they won't be immediately just panicked and
Yep. That's fair. It takes a while, and you kind of like keep them under surveillance, and you don't see anything weird or strange to have happened to them or to most of this neighborhood, really, where they operate. And at some point, it unfortunately does have to be kind of like a dark alley, alone in it type of situation. But you
yeah,
manage to get to a point where you kind of having a convenient kind of mound of just random boxes and junk and stuff, you can at least appear to be, if you wish to do so, you can at least appear to be at first glance just normal human, and you can hide all of the snake body behind this as he kind of like gets into this alley.
yeah, yeah. I think he would do something along those lines
Mm-hmm.
and try to not present him with everything all at
Yep.
once, and just kind of flag him down. Let's call this person Cedric.
Cedric.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So once he starts to approach, Remy goes, "Hey, Ced, how you been, bro?"
Now, Cedric, I assume, knows Remy by the name Rembrandt.
Correct.
Yeah. Um, he kind of like blinks a couple times, looks over. Hey, Rembrandt? That you?
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been weird. It's just Remy now, trying out a new thing.
Remy, sure. Why not? Less
Yeah,
Renaissance.
yeah. It was a bit stuffy, contentious.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
What's up? You still
things.
making sure I didn't kill no one?
I mean, yeah. I'd like to know that.
I didn't kill no one.
That's good. That's good. How are you doing? Things have been weird. Are you all right? Is everything normal?
Yeah, everything's fine. I mean, way more, a lot more crazy people on the streets talking about all sorts of nonsense, but
Yeah, crazy. So listen, I gotta show you something, and it's one of those crazy people things. I need you to just relax and don't run away screaming.
come on, Remy. What?
It's just me. And he will sort of raise up a little bit and lean out from his sort of
Mm-hmm.
cover, to give him a better look.
What the fuck?
That's what I said. It's I don't know what happened, but there's something weird going. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah,
what the hell? Where
just
the
tell me
fuck?
about it.
Where's your where's your legs?
I don't have it anymore. It's you have any idea how tricky stairs are now? This is
S- Stairs? What?
stairs without
The,
feet. It's a
the,
challenge.
dude, what the hell?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I thought I'd come by and see if everything was cool on this side of town because my neighborhood's been a little weird. Seems like you're doing good though.
Um, yeah. He kind of like thinks for a moment, and he says, I mean, look, this is really weird, man. No, nothing was nothing. No, the neighborhood's fine. It's just a couple of people went missing or went away or whatever, but it's all fine.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of things been missing. I just weird. Look, I so if anybody comes looking for me or mentions my name, um, for all intents and purposes, Rembrandt Stone is dead. There was a tragic fire. His construction office burned down.
Oh, what is it that bad? What'd you do?
Sometimes you borrow some money from the wrong people and give it to the right people, but the wrong people figure it out and come looking for you.
Jesus,
Uh,
man. So what do you spit poison now?
I don't think so. I haven't tried. I did. There was a guy hustling me, giving me a hard time, and he turned into a statue while we were arguing. I don't really know how that works.
What, like, the hell? Some Medusa shit or what?
Kinda, yeah, maybe. Thank God I didn't get the hair though. That was
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I get. Now look, come to think, I thought I was just, I thought I was just, the drugs talking or whatever. But there's, that club that really goes hard on the drug
yeah.
trade. I've heard people talking that one of their bouncers had kind of changed into a monster and gone away. Some sort of, I don't know, some sort of rock thing. Like they were basically describing the thing or whatever, but
Comic
different.
book, yeah.
I mean, I don't I don't know much, but I guess if you want, I could like figure out if they had an address for that guy and maybe like I don't know, is that even helpful? I don't know what like is that even a thing? Do you do
Yeah,
you are
maybe
do you feel one another? Like what is going on, man? How many people have become
no.
monsters? What the hell is this?
Just be careful with the monster word. It's you know,
He just kind of like gestures at your snake body.
you're not wrong, but uh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should start a support group. I haven't found one yet, but I have no idea. Not that many, I don't think. But what's weird is like some people clearly notice what's going on, and other people don't seem to understand it at all, or just don't even notice. Like some people barely blink when I walk by. Other people, cross the street quickly. It's strange. Um, yeah, maybe I should look this person. At least, I mean, they're probably looking for answers like I am. Maybe they've already found something out. Um, look, I got a new number. I'm on, and he'll give him
Hmm.
the
Yep.
number for his other phone.
Yep.
Um,
Um, and you kind of like he pulls out his phone, and you knew him like as you said, he's like a street level thug. But there are some things that he absolutely always made sure to have, like to treat himself and to have luxury in. And one of those things was absolutely Apple phones, right?
right.
He pulls out an Android, which you know that he hated with a passion.
Why did you have a change of heart? You gave up on your brand. You've been an iPhone person for as long as I can remember.
The hell are you talking about? I hate Apple. It's just an overpriced brand. I'm not giving money for that out.
Well, out of all the things that could have changed, I suppose that's a pretty minor one.
Did you did you hit your head when you became a snake man?
I became a snake man. Like I believe everybody has changed. Some of us just in much more distinct ways. But for as long as I can remember, you've always had an Apple phone. I've never seen you. You used to talk so much trash about Android. It was a point of pride almost. That must have changed when all this other stuff changed. I mean, be thankful you changed your phone and you didn't lose your legs. Uh,
I mean, what? Some I get a new phone and you get a new body? How the hell does that work?
all right. I saw some weird. Thought I was having a psychotic break. Honestly, I saw it was like a portal or something, and there was people. The ritual. They were sacrificing people or something, and it's just lots of flashes, and there was really weird snow
Snow.
in the middle of the day. It was sunny. Yeah, it was weird.
When?
It's been a few weeks now when all this started.
I haven't had anything falling from the sky in a long time. It's just been sun all the while.
Um, anyway, just don't be surprised if the more you pay attention, the more you realize certain things have changed that you didn't expect.
Okay,
Um,
sure, sure, man. Look,
your favorite burger joint might be a coffee shop now. Who knows?
the okay, look, man. I am gonna go and I'm gonna get that address for you so you can look the person up. I'm gonna text him, but I I think I'm gonna check myself into some rehab clinic or something. Maybe I got slipped something in the club or I don't know what's going on, but this is look, man, it's weird. I'm just gonna need some time to adjust. I can't.
Yeah, no,
Just give me
that's
some
fair
time, man. This
for
is
sure.
freaky.
Yeah, yeah. Shoot me the details, and if anybody comes looking for Rembrandt, just
Yeah,
remember
no,
he's
he's
dead,
dead. He's dead. Yeah. I mean,
and then
he kind of
give
like
me a
looks at
shout.
you and looks down at your snake body. He's like, I mean, you're really not far off. Like, what the hell even is this?
Figured it was as convenient a time as any to make a break. Um, yeah, but do let me know if anybody comes around asking questions.
Will do, man. Will do. Just take care of yourself, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying. Like you too. Keep your nose clean. No knocking over little old ladies or something. Just find people who deserve it. You know.
Come on, man. You know what my mom would do to me if she heard I was doing something like that.
Good.
Yeah, I'm gonna. And he kind of like trails off and turns around and leaves the alley.
See ya. That could have been worse. He didn't pass out.
And we are going to kind of, our camera is going to move up and it's going to pan up towards the city. And we're going to see a couple of suns and a couple of moons move, not indicating months, but just indicating a couple of days. As at some point, Remy does get a message about the address of this other person. And slowly we go to a point where we see Remy introduced to one Rex Plod, and slowly thereafter to some other members of a group that decides to at least spend some time together figuring things out. More on the other members of this group in another episode of Origin Stories. I think that is a good place to end this.
Makes sense to me.
I have been NWD or Night Wanderer. You can find me anywhere on Twitch, on Blue Sky, on Twitter, on all of the places, on Itch under Night Wanderer. That's Wanderer with an O. I stream 3 times a week. And I'm in a whole bunch of podcasts in this actual play and in other things as well. Adam.
Yeah, I've been Adam, also known as Soulbind. The easiest place to find me is my card, soulbind.card.co. It's got all my socials, links to my VO demo reels, some of my music and sound design stuff, clips of APs I've been in. Pretty much anything I'm working on shows up there. So, yeah, follow me. Keep an eye out for whatever comes next, and keep watching good old Remy and his newfound snakeness.
Can't wait to see what kind of trouble he slithers himself into. All right. Bye, everyone. And we should be recording. Hello. Good evening and welcome, everyone, to the origin stories of Gilded Age. Wow, forgot my own game for a moment there. The origin stories of Gilded Age, a cipher system game about nascent heroes in a world entirely unprepared for them. This is one of our 7 character focused vignettes that we will be doing, in which you can find out how our characters came to be the characters that they are going to be. With me this time around is Alice. Alice, welcome in. Tell me, who are you and who are you playing?
Woo! Hello everyone. I'm Alice. Today I'm Elizabeth McGrow, or Lily to friends and shady people.
Beautiful. And because I have not forgotten to do this at least 2 other times in these vignettes, you would expect me to have learned out of my mistakes. I am D, or Night Wanderer, and I am playing the world.
The most important thing.
Yeah. One of these days I'll remember to introduce myself and not just be like, do not pay attention to me. Anyway, we are going to start our story on a bright, sunny, clear-skied day. It is that perfect liminal temperature where it's not too cold and not too hot, and you have people walking in t-shirts, you have people walking with jackets on, but it's just that perfect in-between temperature where nobody's actually complaining about it except for people who don't have a circulation or have too much circulation. And we are going to zoom down onto street level, and we're going to see Elizabeth McCrow, or Lily, walking down the street, going about her business. So, tell me, what does Elizabeth look like, and what is she currently doing?
Elizabeth looks like a mid-20s woman who's sick of all that shit. She has copper curly hair, loves to have a black neck. Because she likes how it looks, but also she likes that people avoid her when she's dressed like that, because she thinks that they might be not scared, but they might think that she's weird and avoid her, and she likes it when people avoid her. That's the good time of the day when no one is talking to her or annoying her. Usually on a normal day, she would be working. She works at a music venue, so a place where concerts are held, but most of them metal goth scene concerts. And she's kind of working there for everything. During the day, she's organizing stuff and doing all the paperwork and everything. And in the evening, she does everything from barkeeping to security to cleaning up whatever is needed. And during a usual day, she would carry around all of her paperwork because she avoids working in her office, and walks around the city deciding which of the usual coffee shops she sees as her workplace will be the workplace of today.
Okay, perfect. And as she is walking, so she is actively on the search for a coffee place to work at the moment, yes?
Yep.
Yep. So she's walking down the street, and this city it has like, it's almost got a twofold kind of architecture thing. There is a part of the city which was obviously the original part, like kind of like the old town, as much as a town can be old in this area of the world, but kind of like an old town which has all of these strange kind of like winding little streets and everything, where everything is so intersected and kind of like confusing. And then the new part, which is very kind of like clearly gridded. It's just like a perfect parallel street kind of grid with blocks of buildings. So, you can go get lost in the old town, or you can just kind of like walk down the newer bit.
Yeah. Getting lost in the old town.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of like are walking through this thing, and again, this is not as old a part of the city, so as to say that everything is like in worn down cobblestone, but there are some, like the oldest bits of town that used to be the very town center back in the olden days, does still have a little bit of like preserved cobblestone, but for the most part it's kind of like been still kept very nice and very neat. So it doesn't have that kind of old, it has an old look to it, but it doesn't have an old atmosphere to it.
Okay.
And you're kind of like walking around, but you've been here a million times, and it's not so much for you getting lost as it is just being unable to be found by people who might seek you out, which you have very carefully curated not to have many of. And you take a couple of turns, you go through like a little arch and through a little thing, and then you get into one of these. This is kind of like a very specific thing of the old part of town, is that there's a whole lot of kind of inner courtyards that are almost like hidden little gems. Like there's just like this passageway, which is absolutely innocuous. Nobody would think anything of it when they look at it. But once you pass through, you're just in this beautiful courtyard. And for this, you also come to one such place, one place that you know that is kind of like, it almost has a little bit of popularity, but it has the kind of popularity that still needs someone to know about it to take you there. So everyone who is here knows someone who has been here. Otherwise, you just have no chance of finding it. And it has this beautiful kind of... so it's kind of like sectioned in a way that in the middle of it, there's this beautiful fountain that has, it's not any like sculptures of humanoid shapes or anything. It's just like a fountain with like relative like curved pillars that are kind of spraying water, and then there's like 4 sections of like little trees and bushes with little benches and everything, so as that one can sit on a green bit, and then surrounding it, apart from where you enter the courtyard, surrounding all of these kind of like ground level flats and apartments have been converted into various coffee shops, restaurants, and stores. So it's kind of like almost like a little contained in itself tiny little world for people who like to enjoy the cozy things of life.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And there is a coffee shop which you have frequented several times, and it is a favorite of yours because, among other things, it is very much styled also in this kind of like more of a gothic way of decor and everything. And it is, let me just think of a sufficiently funny, punny name for it.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's going to be called The Murder of Cold Brews.
Love it. You're prepared for that name, right?
No.
Oh, wow.
That's why it's not like The Murder of Crow Brews, for instance, or Crow Brew Cafe. That would have been better. But it's The Murder of Cold Brews now because I have said it and it is so.
Yeah.
So it is kind
That's
of
a great name.
a place that has, outside of it, it has like a little bit of a space outside of it. All of these places have a little bit of space outside for a couple of tables, nothing too extravagant to have on the outside when the weather's nice. And this one has like those black metal, not the music, but like a metal that is black, tables and like chairs, but everything has been very much styled in this gothic way, and like the ornaments on the along the fence are just like little fake crows that have been like kind of positioned along the things, and so it's kind of like quite a nice thing. And when you go inside, during the day they play kind of like a very mellow version of Baroque music. So it does have like, it has the melodies of Baroque, but it is much of a deeper kind of, the melodies are achieved more with cellos and bass and contrabass than they are achieved with like the tangy piercing sounds that you usually get with Baroque music. And so that's kind of like, it usually like does a really nice kind of vibe for you to work.
Yeah.
So you go in and you sit down in one of your favorite spots, which is free, which has kind of like a cozy little corner couch with a table so that you can like spread out, or you can like nest in if you like.
Yep. Nest in. Sounds good.
Yeah. And, they know you're here. They bring you your favorite drink, which is...
That's a good point. I think just black coffee would be too obvious. I think I will go with extra large chai latte with caramel syrup and mini marshmallows.
Yep. So you are brought your favorite drink, which is just a whole pile of stuff, but it's delicious. It's just the way you like it. And so yeah, you
Yeah.
open up your laptop and you start working. There's not a whole lot to be done today. There's a couple of things to be organized for some concerts that are coming up in a couple of months. Most of the immediate
No,
stuff,
but
because you're fairly good at this. You're good at this job, so most of the stuff that is coming up immediately has already been organized to a point where it's just it works itself out on its own. So, other barring any like critical failures of equipment or whatever, you're not going to have any stressful stuff coming up. And with
perfect.
like one season slowly ending, and then there's going to be a lull, and then the next season is going to pick up. You've got like this is the enjoyable part of your this is like the paid vacation part of your workday, because you are officially working, you are getting paid for it, but it is such a low workload that you're not really feeling it at all. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, and you
So
sat
maybe
there.
just listening to music tapes from local bands who want
Absolutely.
to get a chance and just deciding yes, no. Ooh, interesting. No.
Absolutely, yeah, totally.
Just swiping through.
Just going through a list of candidates, organizing stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're sat there working away and everything, and then you hear kind of like a little bit of a commotion outside of the cafe, and you realize that a couple more of the patrons are kind of like looking outside now and kind of paying attention to what's going outside. And you notice that there's been some sort of like someone has bumped into someone else, and they are very annoyed by this person, but this person is trying to explain something to them that the other person is just not getting. So there's one person who is very annoyed, who's kind of like saying, "Watch where you're going. What are you doing? Why are you standing there like an idiot? What the hell?" And the other guy is like trying to tell him, "But mate, can't you see it? What's going on here? Like, step out of it. Look up."
Is it more annoying for me or does it sound interesting?
It's definitely not a usual soundscape for this place. Like, usually this place is fairly calm and fairly chilled.
Yeah.
So an argument doesn't usually just appear out of nowhere like that. And the other thing is, it's probably, I guess it's probably a little bit annoying, because at this point they're starting to kind of like escalate it and to shout, and they're kind of like starting to get to a point where you would have to like pack out the heavy duty noise canceling headphones instead of just like your normal ones.
Okay. I assume that the people discussing are people I kinda know. At least I've seen them here a few times.
Yeah, definitely. You've seen these faces
I don't
before.
know them, but I know their faces.
Yeah.
Then I just take off my headphones, search for one of my bigger books or maps or whatever, slam it on the table, and shout at them, "Stop that! I'm working here! You know that!"
Mm-hmm.
And just see what's happening.
Yeah. Let's make this an intellect roll. So this is going to be just a level 2, so you need to roll a 6 or higher. It's an intellect roll.
Nice. This means with edge 1,
so
it is still the same roll.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same roll, but if you wanted to apply effort, which here doesn't really make sense, it would be cheaper.
It is a 9.
A 9? Okay, excellent. So that's a level 3. You succeed, and you kind of like you slap the book down, and this like you know how it is. Like, you're familiar with music and how sound works for the most part. And you kind of like slam the book down, and that like makes a couple of the people in the coffee shop jump, but then also the two guys outside kind of like look over at you. And one guy goes, "Look, and he kind of like sighs and says, "Look, I'm sorry." And this he says to the one whom he was shouting at. Not He's not apologizing to you, but he's apologizing in general. He's like,
No.
"Look, I'm sorry. I've been on edge lately. It's just, and you were just standing in the middle of the way. I don't understand why you were doing that." And the other guy is kind of like getting frustrated at this point, and he's saying, "What do you mean you don't know what I'm? Can't you see it? Can't you see the light or whatever it is?"
You mean the sunlight? Because it's daytime.
And
You should step outside more often.
you look outside as you're
Normal.
looking towards him, and behind him you see
Yeah.
almost like snow. It's just like these tiny little flakes of snow that reflect on the sunlight of the perfectly cloudless, bright day. And it seems like they're everywhere. They're very light, and it's behaving like all of these motes of light are behaving like the lightest of snowflakes. Like, they are more prone to move left and right and to the sides than they are to actually fall down, because they're so
Okay.
light that even the slightest air breeze like just pulls them up immediately.
Okay, that's weird and interesting. I leave all my things on the table because I know the guys here and the people know me, so nothing will get stolen or anything, so I can completely ignore what I've put on my table. And just step outside and look up and what's that?
You step outside and you look up, and as you're doing this, you kind of like look around and you realize that there's a couple of people who see this, and there's a couple of people who are reacting to this, who are like reaching out to touch it, or who are just looking at it. Some are trying to film it or make a photo of it with their phones, but most of the people here are not reacting to it. They don't see it, or they're ignoring it, or they don't care about it. But most of the people here are not reacting.
But I think they're reacting to the people who are reacting.
They are, yes. If they're like in the way or whatever, if their like moment of being distracted by this light causes some sort of like commotion or whatever, then they would react to that. Like, they're not ignoring the people.
Okay, then I will just go to the closest one and ask him, do you really not see it?
Yeah, so the closest one are the two
The
guys that were
sparkly
arguing.
snow.
And
Oh, yeah.
the guy who was frustrated, he's like, "Sparkly snow? What are you talking about? It's a beautiful day. There's no snow." And the other guy who sees it just like looks up, looks at you, looks at him, and says, she sees it as well. I don't know what's going on. I mean, look, they see it as well." He like points off to the side where two more people are kind of like looking up and everything. And this guy says, "Look, I don't know. Look, guys, I don't know if this is like a flash mob or whatever it is that you're doing here, or an art installation. That's fine. You do you. I have to, like, I can't. I'm off. Okay, I need to get home." And he just like turns around and leaves the area. And
When
the
he's
guy
turning
looks-
around and walking away, I'm just waving at him, but looking at the sky.
And as you kind of like
I hope.
as you're kind of like waving, one of these like motes of light like gently falls onto your finger, and where it does fall, you almost feel like you feel a little bit of warmth spreading across it. It doesn't melt like snow would. It doesn't leave any residue, and it doesn't stay there. But instead, you just feel like this little bit of warmth spreading across your finger.
Okay, so as soon as this fake snowflake lands on my finger, can I brush it off, or?
Well, you try, but there's nothing there. Like, there's just like that warmth, and as you're kind of like brushing it, as you're kind of like brush skin against skin, the rest of your hand also warms up like to that temperature. So it's not like hot, or it's just like it was a little bit of warmth, and now like your whole hand is warm. But yeah, doesn't seem like it leaves any residue of any kind.
Okay, that's weird. to the person next to me. Does it also feel warm to you?
I mean, and he kind of like pulls his hand out and waits for one of them to drop, and like once it touches his palm, he says, "Oh, yeah, that's weird. That does feel
Should we
warm."
maybe go in? Yeah, should we go inside? I think might be better. I start going back because that's weird, and I don't like things to be weird, especially not those things I can't control.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of like follows you inside.
Perfect.
And as you step into the coffee shop, you kind of like look around for a moment, and you are in a library.
I am highly confused.
And as you're kind of like,
The guy who came in with me is still with me.
no, he has also disappeared.
What the fuck? Okay, then I'm turning around in all directions.
You turn around in all directions, and for a moment you see like some people moving among the bookshelves and everything. And then as you kind of like turn around to back where you were, you look at the door that you came through, and you realize that you are actually back in the cafe, and the guy is there. Like there's almost like this weird disconnecting blip of a moment where your mind told you that you were in a library where obviously you're still in a cafe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he goes,
mm-hmm. Okay,
"Whoa,
who
that was
prepared my
weird. What
coffee?
was that?"
I don't think that's true. Okay, who prepared my coffee and what did you put in it?
And
As I said to you one day back then, I'm not interested in trying any substances that are not coffee or water or food.
well, I made it. I just made it the way you always, the chai with marshmallows and
Yeah,
caramel and just normal stuff the way you always do.
yeah. And what kind of drugs did you put in it?
And he starts
I
talking.
don't like that.
And he starts talking to you, and you see his mouth move, but you hear no sound come out.
Oh my god, is that weird?
And you kind of like for a moment realize it's not just that his voice is not coming out, all of the sound has disappeared. There's no background music playing, there's no sounds of like dishes being stacked or washed or put in a dishwasher. There's no ambient sound of people just like talking to each other or murmuring. There's nothing. There's just like this silence.
But all the objects and people are still there.
Yes.
Just no sounds and.
Yes.
Can I hear myself speak?
Oh, you say something and you do hear your
Yeah,
voice.
sure.
Yes. Yeah, you hear your voice.
I don't care what object is closest to me. If it's a glass, it's a glass. If it's a, I don't know, decorational thing, I don't care. I throw it on the ground. Does that make noise?
You pick up the object and you throw it on the ground, and all of a sudden you see, like, as you let it go, you see that it is this crystal ashtray, which there shouldn't be any ashtrays inside because smoking is not allowed inside. But as you see it kind of like falling, it kind of like tumbles through the air. And as it does, it seems to catch the light in a certain way. And for a moment, it like blinds you. But like just like that flash of light from like a camera flash or from when like a reflection catches off of a smooth surface. And it blinds you for a moment and you kind of like blink a couple of times, but then you realize that there is now all of a sudden only darkness around you. Everything is just dark, black. And you kind of like shift a little and you realize that underneath your feet is no longer this kind of hardwood floor of the cafe, but it's some sort of like natural thing. It's kind of like just like ground of some sort. And
I start panicking and hyperventilating and not knowing what to do and wanting to scream and run away, but I think it doesn't matter in which direction I look, there's always the same darkness.
Yep. You turn around a little bit, and as you're doing this, as you're like getting this pumped up, make me this is a perception related intellect task. It is going to be level 2, so you need a 6 or higher.
I can do that. I can do that. It is a 7.
7, nice. So you kind of like look around, and as you do, you realize that your eyes are starting to get accustomed to this place, and you're starting to see different kind of like hues and everything, and slowly this whole scene resolves itself around you, and you realize that you are on a cliff of some sort of pale blue.
Please no.
On the cliff is made out of a pale blue sort of stone. It's almost like a if it were a moonlit night, the kind of like pale blue that shines off of rocks. But you don't see any moon upstairs. Upstairs, you don't see any moon up in the sky. You just see like this cliff, and beyond this cliff, you see an ocean. Just as far as the eye can reach, you just see an ocean of ink blackness. But this is not just, you realize in the moment as you're looking at it, this is not water that is dark. This is some sort of pure shadow or darkness or something. It writhes in a way that is not conform to the way water behaves, and you see like these shapes kind of like rising out of it and falling down, and it's just like this endless ocean of blackness. And as you are standing there watching this ocean and kind of like experiencing this, you start hearing sound, and the sound that you hear is that kind of velvety hum of a gramophone when it is done with the music, when there's just like the scratching of the needle across the record.
Okay. Elizabeth is starting to just say no, nope, and going away from the cliff, and then turning around and trying to run away from the cliff as far as possible, while constantly saying, nope, too young to die, not now, no. She's just running.
Yep.
Completely panicking.
And you start running,
and it's getting worse and worse and worse.
It sort of like starts sloping downwards, and so you start kind of like going downhill, and then at some point, make me this is going to be a speed task, and it is going to be a level 5 speed task, but you have a dexterity power shift of 2 levels, so it reduces that to 3 for you, so you need a 9 or higher to get it.
Okay. Ooh, that's a 14. So I'm completely panicking, and I still hope that this all is just a drug-indicated nightmare, and I just need to keep on running, because at some point my real body might too start running and just run into a wall or a table or a chair or someone else, and I will wake up out of this nightmare. So that's my plan.
Yep. You as you do, and you're kind of like you're running down, you manage, there's a couple of moments where you kind of like almost slip, but you don't slip because you don't slip because there's like something in your way, or you trip on something, or you trip over your own feet, or it's too steep. you almost slip because the quality of the terrain beneath your feet changes. It becomes smoother. And at some point, you
Uh-huh.
realize that apart from this kind of like hum, this kind of empty record scratching hum that is suffusing the entire area, there is also the echoing sound of your footsteps across a very smooth, almost glass-like surface. When I say glass-like, I mean it's just that smooth. It's
Yeah.
and at a point you kind of like stop because all of these changes are like happening, and that kind of like just stops you in the tracks for a moment, and you realize that there are so many different shades of black that you are at this moment perceiving. And you see, even though you are in darkness on a black ground, you still see within that black ground a reflection of yourself, almost like in an obsidian mirror. And
Somehow fancy, but still
yeah,
sorry.
terrifying.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit of terrifying.
And as you look down at this reflection, you see other reflections start to form, but on the ground. You don't see any shapes that are casting these reflections. It's just reflections of humanoid silhouettes around you. And they kind of like, it is not aggressive. You're not interpreting any hostility in this, but they are moving towards you.
What?
They kind of, or at least the reflections are moving towards your reflection.
Uh-huh. Is it too late to jump off the cliff now?
I mean, you can try running back.
I might.
Mm-hmm.
Just jumping off the cliff
Okay.
sounds better than weird reflections coming close to me. I mean, this is all a just drug nightmare, so nothing can go wrong with jumping off a
Absolutely.
cliff,
What can possibly
right?
go wrong?
Yeah, sure. So I will try to run back and just jump off
Yeah.
the cliff.
You start running back, and as you are running back, you're kind of like keeping one eye on these reflections, and as they kind of like come to intercept you and everything, you're making like these moves, like you're pivoting on your heel, moving around them, trying to come around. And for a moment, there's just like this cinematic moment where we leave Lily's perspective and we look up from a bird's eye view, and it almost looks like a very elegant and complex waltz that is being played by all of these different figures and Lily, as she is kind of like navigating her way through all of these obstacles until once more the ground starts sloping up again, and we zoom back in on Lily's perspective as you are running up this cliff. Get to the cliff, you get to the very edge of the cliff, and there is this endless black ocean, and as you jump, there is a moment of pristine, comforting weightlessness that comes over you. For a moment, you are not falling, you are in the air.
Like flying or
like almost like flying. It feels so incredibly liberating. And then there's suddenly no more. Well, the ground is gone, and the sky is gone, and the ocean is gone, but at the same time, you're submerged in this deep, dark void, which might as well be the depth of this strange ocean of shadow. And within it, you feel this incredible, sovereign capability of commanding it. Like, you are here and you can move any way you like. You can move up, you can move down, you can move to the side. Freedom, absolute, incredible freedom, submersed in the most beautiful silence you have ever experienced. With just that comfort.
Now I really like this drug dream. It's no nightmare.
Yeah. It is just this. It's not just the absence of sound. It is a silence that is so incredibly profound that it almost feels like it is enveloping you in a comforting, soft cocoon of silk and velvet shadow.
Ah, that's nice.
And then it kind of like all starts. For a moment, you get this a little bit of vertigo. You get a little bit dizzy. And that is a very strange sensation in a place where there is nothing to see spinning. You're just this is a very internal feeling. And you kind of like blink a couple of times, and when you open your eyes, you are on the couch of the cafe. The whipped cream of your chai latte has kind of like slowly started melting to down the sides. Your laptop is on, but it's already gone into that dim mode of a laptop on low battery. And there's still music coming out of the headphones that are still connected to the laptop.
And I'm standing on the couch.
You're sat on the couch.
Ah, okay. How's the rest of the room? All objects are where they're meant to be. All people are doing what they're meant to be in this cafe.
Everything
Everything normal.
Yep, everything looks the same as it was. The only difference being is that the guy that you came into the cafe with, he seems to be like, he is very pale at the moment, like he's had the fright of his life, and he's just kind of like stumbling outside of the cafe. And he stumbles like 1 foot at a time, and at some point he just like starts running.
I feel him. I just take my favorite drink.
Yep. And as you drink it,
Can I get more marshmallows?
of course, you're brought more marshmallows. But the interesting thing is, it is not just the delicious favorite drink that you always drink. It is like an explosion of taste. It is like taste turned up to 11. You have never tasted something this intensely before. Like it is an explosion of flavor. Almost like you had been deprived of any taste for years and are now getting something that has an incredible flavor profile.
But I know that it's the same
Absolutely.
crap pre-made powder they
Absolutely.
throw in together with everything else. Okay. Okay. Okay, I either need to get more sleep or I don't know. I should see a doctor. Maybe that's something for either the doctor or psychiatry. All the people in here are acting normal. It was just me and the
Yep.
guy I came in who were
Yes.
okay. Do they look at me weird somehow or
No.
okay, I go to the waiter
Mm-hmm.
and ask him what the fuck?
What do you mean?
Everything?
Sorry,
The sparkly yeah.
you're gonna have to be more specific, because
Okay. Okay. Let's start with the sparkly fake snow. The library, the cliff with the ocean, the reflections.
are you feeling okay?
Nope, not really.
Maybe you should go home, lie down.
Yeah.
'Cause, I don't know, maybe you're running a
But you
fever.
didn't. No. No. All good. Um. Sparkling fake snow that felt warm.
Um, I don't know what you're talking about.
Just like. Okay. Okay. Um. But you heard those two guys outside arguing. You heard them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course. I mean, they were a bit loud.
And
Hard not to
then
hear them.
yeah, and then I started screaming. You hear that too?
No.
Screaming, shouting, asking them politely
Oh,
to
yeah,
stop.
your little... Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then I went outside and talked to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did something like this.
Sure.
Did you see that?
No, I have work to do.
But then I came back in, right? With
Yeah.
the other guy who just ran away.
Yeah.
And okay. And then you suddenly decided to make a library out of this place?
What?
Yeah.
Look, I really think you should, go get some sleep or something. Or maybe see a doctor.
Yeah, I don't know. You really did not put any drugs in my
No.
drink? Really? Not? Okay.
I mean, are you disappointed? Should I have? I mean, I don't have any, but should I have?
No, you shouldn't. Okay. Cool. Thanks for I don't know what that was.
Sure.
Yeah. I just take out a random amount of money. I hope it's enough. Put it on the counter.
Mm-hmm.
Start packing my things.
Yep.
Looking around, looking at all the others. If maybe I don't know. Maybe they're all playing to act normal. Maybe there are still some reflections on the ground now, following me.
So there's no nothing untoward, no reflections on the ground following you or anything of the like. The people here, the patrons, there's a couple of them. The coffee shop wasn't particularly full at this time of day, but there's a couple of them, and they seem to have just gone on with their normal day, just as they usually would. Let's have you. This is a memory-related intellect roll. It is a level 3, so you need a 9 or higher.
I have an intellect power shift.
Oh, yeah. So
does that help me now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me just double check. Intelligence.
I've got a
power
level
shift.
1.
Yeah. So that is going to reduce it from a level 3 to a level 2. So you only need a 6 or higher to succeed.
7 again.
Nice. Yes, you kind of look around and these patrons, and some of these people you've seen every time you have been here. And there's this. Usually, there's this one guy who sits off in the corner and reads newspapers, and he comes in with a little Stafford Terrier on a leash, and the Stafford Terrier usually just lies at his feet while he reads the papers, right? And you kind of look over there, and it is so weird. It's almost like you're seeing that man's twin sister. It's a woman of the same age with if you look at her, you can absolutely see the man's face, right? It's just with more of a feminine bent to it,
Mhm.
but definitely a woman who looks exactly like the guy would look if he were a woman, basically.
Mhm.
And you see that there is no dog, but there is a cat in her lap. But she is reading the same newspaper and drinking the same drink, and just like the pose, the position of the body is the same. Everything is the same, except that instead of a man with a dog, it's a woman with a cat.
Do I know the dog's name?
Yes, the dog's name is Joey.
Okay. Then I packed my things, very awkwardly staring at her all the time, and then grabbing all my stuff and going over to her and like, "Hi,
Oh, hello, dearie.
how is Joey?"
I mean, he's purring, so I assume he's fine. And she kind of like laughs a little at the weird question. And you kind of like look down at the cat, and you see that the cat has like a little collar that just says like Joey on it, a little tag.
Ah. Then I look at her and I look at the cat and. Okay. Do you feel fine too?
Oh yes, perfectly. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
Not good.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. What did happen to Joey the dog?
Sorry, who's Joey the dog?
I'm trying to describe the dog, but very
Mhm.
awkwardly. So just
Yeah.
like the Joey's about this big, and here he has a dark spot.
Yeah. She just looks at you and she says, I'm sorry, I don't know. Whose dog is that?
Someone told me that you have a dog
Oh, no,
that
I can't.
looks like similar to the cat, and that you, yeah.
Oh, no, dearie. I'm very afraid of dogs. No. It's been cats all
Okay.
my life.
Okay. Yeah. Thank. Yeah. Have a great day. Is it still day?
Oh yeah.
I say that and look
Mm-hmm.
outside.
Yeah. She
Okay.
kind of says,
Okay.
dearie, maybe you should ease up on the dark coffee shops. Maybe you should go out and get some sun. You know, you need the vitamin
Yeah.
D.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Where is the dog? Is what I'm saying while
Yeah.
going outside.
Yeah, you go outside.
And then I go past the waiter and I look at the waiter. Why is there a cat? What happened to the dog? And then I go outside.
He like
And I'm
stays
so
staring,
confused.
like, the hell? He's also confused now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And you go outside, and outside seems like normal.
Okay, at least something. I think I have my phone with me.
Sure.
I just Google psychiatrist, psychologist. I don't care. I just Google it, go on Google Maps, and wherever the closest one is, I just plan to go there, knock at the door, and do what I'm currently doing, and maybe also start a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
I just hope when I'm at the door of a doctor that they can't send me off.
Yep, that's fine. Yeah, so you do that, and that's a good point for us to take a little bit of a zoom out of this timeline and observe individual spots in the next couple of weeks that come up. We have Lily having several sessions with the psychiatrist, but most of it ends up being her concerns being assuaded. This person definitely, for the most part, they are letting you know that this is probably like stress induced or whatever. Like, it's not really a very satisfying conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. You even come to a point where you're like, maybe this person's a bit of a hack. Like, this doesn't sound like it's a very competent person. But as kind of like time progresses, weird phenomena or weird things start like appearing, not specifically around you, but not just around the town, but around the whole world. Like, at some point you kind of like come across news reports and stuff, and there's like all of a sudden reports of all sorts of people doing all sorts of supernatural stuff. Like, people are seen flying, people are seen like monsters are all of a sudden seen on the streets, and it's all kind of like very, very strange. And we are going to at some point zoom in on a moment where we have this moment where you are walking home from having worked that day, because you have continued your life as much as you could. And in this time, you've also noticed that certain things have changed. Like, where once was a cute little Italian restaurant is now a huge franchise chain bakery.
Wow.
And you know that it was always an Italian place, and even the architecture
Yeah.
inside is kind of like changed and everything. But nobody you talk to and everyone within it just knows that this has always been a bakery. Up to like it used to be like a clothes boutique, and then when that closed down, it opened up a bakery, and it was never an Italian place, even remotely considered there. But you know acutely that just yesterday that was an Italian place, right? And there's a couple of places like this that have had like this change, and usually these places also have had people inside them change a little bit. So if like with the man becoming the woman and the dog becoming the cat, you've had like a couple of moments where you've seen lives completely different, completely like someone who was just a single hardworking student trying to pay off their student debts while going to school is all of a sudden a mechanic who is married and has children. Like, there's major shifts in lives, but never any mention of them having lived the other life, right? This is not it's not a lot of this, but there's a little bit of this happening, and it is consistent enough for you to have sort of gotten used to the fact that, okay, certain things are weird. And
I also talk with my probably not so good psychiatrist about everything.
Absolutely, yes. And we go to a point where they also kind of like start. They do not believe that things have changed so much, because it would imply a lot of things that they probably can't like deal with, such as most people can't deal with. But they do agree that like your experience may have actually happened, because there's all of these phenomena happening now around the world that maybe there's something truly going on here. And as you're kind of like going home this one night from work, you kind of you realize that there is some sort of commotion happening off in an alley that you're passing by, and it's a bit of a rougher bit of town because you took like a little bit of a detour, got distracted, and ended up just somewhere where you didn't necessarily want to be. And you kind of like press yourself against the wall to kind of like blend in, and all of a sudden you feel kind of like this. You feel that reassurance of that silence and then of that blackness, and you realize for a moment that you have completely distorted the light that your body is reflecting, and you are just a part of the shadow in the wall. And these people who are fighting in the alley and are kind of like chasing each other and stuff, they kind of like run by and nobody notices even a speck of you, as you kind of like have just become a shadow on the wall. And that kind of like drops as you kind of like see this. And over time, then you start kind of trying to get into that whole thing, trying to figure out how that works and everything. And as you do, there's a couple of moments where you kind of like you need to become the blackness. You need to be one with the black. Like, you're trying to do all of these kind of like things that you've seen in comic books and movies and stuff. And they're like, be one with the darkness to become the dark. And all of a sudden, you're kind of like there's this dizzying moment of a swirling kind of. Again, this moment, this impression of motion, even though you can't see anything, and all of a sudden you're standing on a completely different side of the street, because you have kind of like blinked from one shadow to the next. And as you do, you kind of like while you do, you kind of feel yourself passing through these shadows. You feel yourself passing through that place that you were at.
And this feels like something real, and that doesn't feel like I just walked this whole path and just forgot the 10 meters in between.
There is no mistake.
It just feels like I'm here and now I'm there and not. Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And as you kind of like emerge from the shadows, you kind of like almost instinctively like close your hand around something, almost like searching for a guardrail or something to hold on to. And as you do, and you kind of like leave the shadow, you realize that you're kind of like pulling this kind of ribbon of darkness with you that is now tangible in your hand. And you kind of like look at it and you see that it sort of almost like plies itself around your hand and just almost like a charmed snake like moves above your hand and kind of almost awaits an instruction of sorts, as we kind of like see you coming to terms and to grips with these powers.
At the beginning, I'm just standing there looking at the ribbons, and I'm like, okay, breathe in and breathe out. That's all just stress. I'm too stressed. I just need to stop working that much, and I take a few deep breaths and close my eyes and do some speed meditation things. Are the things still here after I did a bit of quick relaxation?
Yes, but they're definitely still there, but you still feel like you can command them.
So I slowly understand that it might not be me seeing weird things because I'm too stressed. Okay. I don't know if I like it.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
And we kind of like move out of this intense moment of self-discovery and move on a couple of days later, and we zoom once more in onto Lily's timeline as she is once more out and about, and as she is moving around, she kind of like hears this sort of altercation going on, and you look off to the side and you see it's a bit of a strange sight, because you see this woman, this red-haired woman, arguing with, for a moment you think it's like some sort of weird like mound of stuff or maybe like a sculpture or something, but then eventually you realize that it is very animated and talking, and you kind of like realize that this is just like this hulking creature that seems to be made out of stone and rock. And there's like, as they are talking to this woman, there's this glow that is kind of like emanating from the cracks in this rock body.
Okay. I assume that until now I kinda understood that the shadow is now my power, and
yes.
Okay. Then Lily takes a few deep breaths and is like, okay, I can do this. Does it seem like the woman is uncomfortable?
She seems confused.
Seems confused. Okay. Okay. I can do that. That's a woman against a giant rock. maybe I can just shroud herself and myself into shadow and run away from this huge creature, and I try to collect all my self-confidence and mask of having self-confidence and put on that mask and be like, okay, you look grumpy, people avoid you. You can do that. And then I get ready, take a deep breath, and run over there and start shouting at the stone figure, whatever, to go away and leave alone the woman and don't make any, how do you say? Don't annoy her because obviously she doesn't want to talk to you. So just go away.
Yep.
Don't harass her. Don't make her feel uncomfortable. Just go.
Yep.
And I just try to pretend to be strong. And the inside of me, I'm dying, but I'm trying to.
Absolutely. And you kind of like get to this
Trying
point
to.
where you just kind of like get into his face and like get like
Yeah.
all of this bravado and all of this kind of like
Yeah.
dominance, trying to exude this confidence and get after him. And he really does kind of like for a moment like take a step back, and he's taken aback, and he
Yeah.
like looks at you and everything, and then it's kind of like for a moment there's like all sorts of things happening. Like he's starting to kind of like shout at you, but not like he's not aggressive at you. He is shouting to overpower your voice because you are shouting at him. And at the same time, the woman has also started shouting, but she has like a very strong accent, so that's also confusing. And all three of you are just like in this shouting match until
Yeah.
you come to a realization a couple of minutes later that the issue was that he was getting upset because she wasn't able to tell him what her favorite flavor of ice cream was. And he wasn't getting like angry upset. He was getting upset because she hadn't tasted ice cream, apparently.
Okay, at first I'm real annoyed of him because what in the stupid questions of the world was that? Why don't you just go to random women and ask them what their favorite ice cream is? Creep! And then I'm like, what do you mean you have never tasted ice cream?
Yep. And that is going to be a point where we are going to zoom out once more out of this meeting between three unlikely future friends. As we slowly move up and observe just a night of the city. And this is where we will end our origin story for Lily.
Yay! I'm not dead.
You are not dead. This is going to be an episode that hopefully you will at this point have seen and or heard. We are airing these episodes as a way to introduce everyone to our characters before we continue with the main story. I have been D, or Night Wanderer. I am the DM of this actual play, and you can find me. My link tree has been, should have been beneath my head all this time. Linktree/Night Wanderer. That's Wanderer with an O. I stream. I'm currently streaming Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition, Disco Elysium, and Dragon Age Inquisition. You can find me on Ben Newbon's Cybertopia podcast. You can find me on John's Mecha vs. Kaiju podcast on his bacon-flavored pods, and just on itch, just all over the place. I'm doing a lot in the TTRPG hobby and have been streaming for close to a year. Wow, that's scary to think about.
What?
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's not. That's just a few months. No.
Yep.
Oh wow.
And I
What
have
happened to the time? Wow.
No, we don't talk
year.
about the time.
Okay.
And I have been
Sounds good.
joined by the incredible Alice. Alice, tell us, where can we find you? What do you do?
You can find me on not that many places, but I'm on itch.io and I'm on Blue Sky, always under Alice Williams. And this is my first and so far only actual play. and I kind of love it. So there might be more of me, but for now, I'm just bringing chaos into the Gilded Age world. And when there's time and motivation, I do TTRPG content for not content for specific systems, but yeah, maybe more flavoral content. And I draw battle maps, and I do all
Which
sorts
are
of
awesome.
things that pop to my mind. Yeah, they are.
There.
I slowly get confident enough to say that.
Excellent. You should. You absolutely should. Well, that has been us. Oh, they're under here. The links are right now under our names. Okay.
Ooh.
I just saw the
And
OBS
before
link.
I forgot,
Yes.
and before I forget, there might be a soundtrack for Lily on Spotify. This soundtrack might be a good list of lovely songs.
Yeah.
I don't
so-
know where we will put it, but we will make sure that you can see the link and the Spotify playlist
Absolutely.
somewhere at some point after we have figured out how to do that.
Yes, after we have figured out things, there will be lists and everything. I intend to do a whole lot
Yeah.
of all of our fan created arts. We are our own best fans when it comes to our characters, but a lot of our character themed things will be making an appearance. You can see next to us, you can see the pictures of the amazing work of our artists. We have Demon Artie, who has been an amazing artist with an incredible turnover time. You've got John illustrating his own Jess, which is amazing art. You've got Glitch illustrating his own art. Just amazing stuff. Really, we are so blessed to have such great artists. And we who knows, maybe we will have more than just Lily's character playlist. I love playlists. I love listening to music while I do stuff that is not DMing, because DMing requires a lot of things to happen in my mind. Anyway, we are now vaping, so we are going to end this broadcast. Please, guys, take care of yourselves. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. And we will see you next time on Origins or on Gilded Age. Bye-bye.
Yay! Bye.